Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Harvesting Justice podcast, a podcast by Pro-Life San Francisco. I am your executive coordinator. What? I'm your executive director, Melanie Salazar, and I am joined today with my co-host, Robert Bird. Welcome, Robert.
I am the executive coordinator. I am not going to claim director status.
Is Robert the executive director now? And we are here with our friend, Anastasia Rogers. Welcome, Anna.
Hi.
Thank you for being here today. Woo, 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 woo.
Yay.
Don't take my job.
Can I be the executive director?
Anna is the organizer for Survivors San Francisco. And today we'll be chatting all about your most recent arrest.
How exciting.
Yeah, but let's get started with telling us a little bit about yourself. And I'd love for the listeners who maybe don't know you, like how we know you, to get some lore on who is Anna and how'd you get involved in the pro-life movement?
That was a great question. Once upon a time, God created the world, and then Adam and Eve. Okay, I'll fast forward a little bit.
And your mom and dad.
Fast forwarding
in
a little
November.
bit. Anyway, so my name's Anastasia. I am too old to be saying my age, but yeah, I moved to San Francisco in 2020, and I had always been pro-life. It's something that when I was very young, I remember asking my teacher at one point, like, something along the lines of, like, if Roe v. Wade was, like, around, blah, blah, blah. I need to restart that over. But anyway, so I remember asking my teacher when I was in, like, elementary school, we learned about Roe v. Wade, and I was like, but if there's Roe v. Wade, like, what's the point? Like, what can we do to, like, fight this, you know? And she said something along the lines of, like, well, we can't really do anything. I don't even know if she was pro-life, but she was basically just saying, like, I mean, Roe v. Wade's there, so it'd be very difficult or impossible to actually do anything about the issue. And I was, like, kind of just took that at its word, basically, and was like, okay, well, I mean, I can be, like, against abortion, but there's nothing I can really do about it, right? So then in 2020, I was involved in the animal rights movement. I actually moved to Berkeley. I said San Francisco a second ago, but whatever. And I lived in Berkeley for like 2 years.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, so I lived in Berkeley until like 2020. Was it 2022? I think so. Anyway.
I also didn't know that you had always been pro-life.
Yeah,
That's
I
cool.
mean, as long as I've known what abortion was anyways, I don't know that I could say I was pro-life when I was like 3 or something because I probably
Sure.
didn't know what it was. But yeah,
And was that in middle school or high school?
Elementary.
Elementary when you learned
Yeah.
about Roe v. Wade?
I think it was the 2000 election.
Oh.
So I would have been like 8 years old.
Wow, that's crazy.
Oh, now I just told my age. But I would have been like 8 years old, and we were learning about like the current issues in government and like the different political parties. Basically, just like that week we were talking about the election essentially.
That's
So I don't
cool
know
way to
that we
tell.
learned. So I don't know that we learned in depth what it was, but like that we just all took like a questionnaire on our own type thing. Like, what do you feel about this, that, the other thing? I remember like gay marriage and abortion were like kind of the two big issues that I can remember. Sorry. Yeah. There's a lot of other stuff. Y'all welcome for that. But there's a lot of stuff too. And I just remember asking like what even it like I don't even know what this means, like what is abortion type thing. And she's saying something along the lines of like it's just like when someone's pregnant and doesn't want to be anymore or something like that. And I was just like, oh, so then what happens to the baby? And she's like, I guess they die. I don't know exactly how she worded it, but I was like, why would someone do that? Like, why would someone kill their child? That's absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, so I had always been pro-life, but didn't really think I could do anything about it. And then when I moved to Berkeley, I was involved in animal rights activism. I had been doing activism for at least 5, maybe 6 years at that point, in varying capacities, but at the moment focusing on animals. And I had been doing like direct action. I had been arrested a couple times for animal rights. And I saw after I moved to San Francisco. So once I left Berkeley, moved to San Francisco, a lot of stuff happened, but personal stuff, not really a big deal, but whatever. Moved across the bridge. When I got here, I started seeing like posts on my Instagram or Facebook, maybe it was. I think I used Facebook at the time, but like different things that just started popping up of pro-life stuff. So like I think it was Pro-Life SF or maybe it was POW. It might have been POW because I remember they're the ones I reached out to. I had not followed any pro-life pages, by the way. This just happened to pop up on my like newsfeed. I genuinely don't think I had followed a single pro-life page before this. I don't think so. I don't even know that I remember ever seeing a pro-life post before this. I'm genuinely not sure. Nothing stands out anyways. But I saw this post where people were getting arrested, and I think it was when they were getting arrested at UCSF. So if that sounds about at least posted early 2022, then that's probably what it was. But it was someone getting arrested at something. And I was like, that's what I need to be doing. Because at the time I was an atheist and all I knew about pro-lifers was that they pray outside abortion clinics. And I was like, well, I'm not going to do that.
I'm like, where do I fit in with that?
Basically. I also, like, as an atheist, I was like, well, that doesn't do anything anyways. And I kind of like thought, which is not true, but as an atheist anyways. And it was like, that's kind of like all I knew about the pro-life movement, really. And I think that combined with just as a kid, like learning about Roe v. Wade and Roe v. Wade still being a thing at that point and kind of knowing like we can't do anything until we overturn Roe v. Wade, I kind of just didn't worry about the issue other than people would, if it came up, I mean, I would tell people I'm against abortion, but that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
I don't know. So fast forward a little bit. I've fast forwarded to the point of, okay, so I've gotten like, when I moved to San Francisco and saw this post, I messaged POW and was basically like, hey, I want to get involved. And they told me to look up Pro-Life San Francisco. So that's also the first time I ever heard of Pro-Life San Francisco. I messaged POW because I saw that direct action was like, I want to get involved with them.
Very cool.
And they told me about Pro-Life San Francisco. I met up with Kristen and we did a protest. Again, the very first pro-life thing I ever did was yelling at Kamala Harris. So that was fun. I think it was Kamala Harris. Were you there?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you want to? I don't barely remember. Tell them what it was about.
I remember one of our former board members was out there with me and Kristen. Anna showed up for the first time. I remember being introduced with Anna as someone that Kristen connected with at a Berkeley vegan event or an animal rights event. It's like that's like maybe one of the first times you were able to like get together in the same physical space and interact. And then you were invited over to the Kamala Harris protest, and she was speaking at the UCSF Mission Bay campus at the big kind of conference center area where they usually have the regents meetings when they're in town, the University of California leadership. And yeah, after Kamala's appearance, speech inside, she came out to her vehicles. I don't recall if we were able to like see her at any given point, like, but you know, her motorcade, we saw her motorcade. We had our messages to be sure that we had a chance to get in her mind, get in her ear in one way or another. Because, you know, it's the thing you just have to do when you have the opportunity.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Anna, I would love if you're open to it to dive a little more into your connection of like veganism, animal rights, direct action, and then anti-abortion activism, because you have that unique characteristic about you of that kind of consistency and direct action for the animals and the babies.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it seems like the most consistent position. When you're animal rights activist, like you're very much like focused on like sentient life. That's kind of like where the difference becomes. And a lot of pro-choicers talk about sentience a lot as well. And it's something that I don't think we necessarily need to avoid as pro-lifers. I do think there is an inherent difference between when someone's at a point of sentience or not. For me, I've always considered like basically someone's a person per se. Personhood's a complicated topic, opinion or whatever. But I've always considered that someone is a person if they're of a species that at some point in their typical lifespan has a capacity for sentience. So it's a little wordy, but to me it seems like the most consistent definition for it. A lot of people talk about personhood, especially like people who are pro-abortion, as like based on the individual and if that individual is sentient. But like to me, that falls flat because it's a crime to mess with somebody's dead body, for example. And they're not sentient anymore.
Yeah.
And I don't think we'll say that. I don't think there's very many people on this world who would say that like if whoever is in a grave, that they're not a person anymore. They're not alive, but they're still a person. They're still a human being. And I think like that's just one example where this like whole idea that you're not a person until you're sentient, it just falls flat when you look at either when they're conceived or when they're like passed. Yeah. So to me, it makes sense to expand that definition to if their lifespan, a typical lifespan for that species, has capacity for sentience. But that includes animals as well. And for me, I think that's kind of what really drove me into animal rights was protecting those that can feel pain, those that can suffer essentially. And I think that humans and animals have a lot of similarities in that they, at least in the way that they feel things and the way they perceive, the way they can suffer and feel pain, we all have those connections in that way. Like if I stab someone in the knee or if I stab a dog in the knee, both of them are going to feel pain.
Yeah.
Like, you could argue, like, you could definitely argue that we should be protecting our own species first. I've heard that argument before. I definitely don't necessarily disagree with, like, protecting yourself first, and the same way that I would imagine a lion is going to protect another member of their family before they're going to protect a random animal or a human. Like, I think it's the same thing as human beings. We have a natural tendency to want to protect other human beings over animals, but I don't think that means that we should just avoid animals. But as an animal rights activist, I spent a lot of time, like, really talking about, like, eggs and dairy especially, and really considering, like, in those situations, like, there's a lot of issues in terms of animal rights, animal welfare. But I think the main thing that really bothers people is, like, chick culling and veal. And I think both of those are products of eggs and dairy. But if we're, like, throwing a baby chick into a macerator, for example, like, the minute they're hatched, like, to me, that's incredibly similar to what we're doing to humans, at least if you compare it to, like, second trimester or later abortions. And I think that it's absolutely ridiculous that someone could be, like, against this, like, food system and then also say it's okay to kill humans in essentially the same way. Like, dismembering a human in the womb is essentially what they're doing to a chick just outside of the egg. And it's just one consistency there. But I just think, like, we fall flat as animal rights activists a lot when we want to put animals above humans. And I think that it's a natural tendency to do so because of the system puts humans above animals. So in order to kind of equal the scales, people want to push the animals higher. But we should be stopping at equality. I don't think we should be at a point where we're like, animals matter more. I think that's problematic. I think everyone should matter equally. But as an animal rights activist, I've, like, just dealt with a lot of people who, like, really care a lot about animals, but just don't care about humans. And I think as a pro-lifer, and the flip side of that is I handle with a lot of pro-lifers, work with a lot of pro-lifers who just really don't care about animals. And they might care about, like, certain animals or certain situations. Like, I'm not saying they're, like, completely heartless, but there's just a lot of pro-lifers that just don't mind much that, like, that these animals are suffering for food, or that these ones are suffering for clothes or whatever.
So there's, like, the vegan animal rights side of the inconsistency of not also being anti-abortion. And then if you're anti-abortion pro-life, then then there's also some inconsistency over here then to not also see the pain, the suffering, the genocide of animal treatment too.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I think everyone, I think in general, at least when it comes to a legal standpoint, I definitely have views that I believe are based on my morality that come from a biblical standpoint. But from a legal standpoint, I really feel like as long as what you're doing isn't harming somebody else, then I think we shouldn't be regulating it. And I think for animals and with abortion and with animals for food, I think that is harming somebody else. If you consider the preborn somebody else, you should also be considering animals somebody else, because at the stage that most abortions are happening, humans aren't sentient yet. Now, I would still, they're definitely still a person. Like, I'm not saying they're not a person, and I'm not saying that makes them matter less. But what I'm saying is, like, if we're going to view objectively a cow in a slaughterhouse versus, like, a human at, like, 5 weeks inside the womb, one of those has a capacity for pain in that moment. And I think, like, that is something that should be considered. And it doesn't mean that that animal matters more, but I find it to be, that's why I find it even more hypocritical at times when, like, pro-lifers really just, when they're at the point that they just don't care at all. When they're, like, kind of like, oh, it doesn't matter because they're food. I think there's discrepancies. I think everyone has different things. But yeah, for anti-abortion people, that tends to, or sorry, for animal rights people, the main problem that I see that they have with pro-lifers is that not more pro-lifers are vegan. And I think that's where it stems from, is that idea that these animals can feel pain and most abortions are happening before pain. So they're not really counting that, like, they're persons that are being killed, but more of, like, judging the suffering. And I don't know that that's necessarily the way we should be going about things, but that tends to be what they think. And I do tend to agree a little bit that we should be more considerate of what we're doing to animals as well. So, I don't know.
Wow.
Rambled a lot.
No, I really appreciate all the insight you gave from your animal rights, being inside that world and being inside the pro-life world and having both of these core beliefs. I appreciate everything you shedded a light on there. So take us now to the modern day, to a few months ago. You were on the sidewalk of Planned Parenthood, Northern California, 1522 Bush Street, San Francisco.
Come join us. Come join us.
Take us now to the present day of how did that come about with getting arrested? What happened that fateful day?
So I have to roll it back a little bit. To August, I believe it was, of last year. We were at the sidewalk at 1522 Bush Street. Come and join us. We were at the sidewalk, and were you there that day? I think so. When
you recorded the reel?
When the video was made, yeah.
Yeah.
So we made a video. There was this trending audio to like Pink Pantheress, I believe.
My name is Pink and I'm really glad to meet you.
You're recommended to me by some people. Yeah, anyways, that one. I did a reel where I was one of the people in the video, and then the other person was the escort that was standing there. Basically just me trying to shake her hand and her ignoring me. That was essentially what the video was. And the caption and the words over the video was comparing how pro-choicers and pro-lifers, both in their mind, they're there because they want to help women. But pro-lifers want to help women by like killing them with kindness, by like being kind, trying to help them, trying to find ways to make their life easier. And pro-choicers want to help women by telling them to kill their babies. I think that's the main difference. And that's basically what the caption was, is like, I don't necessarily think that most of these people are like necessarily heartless. I think they're very misguided and believe that what they're doing is helping women. And I think
it's good for society.
Yeah. I think for the vast majority of pro-choice activists, especially escorts, they really feel like what they're doing is helping women, that they're trying to give them this freedom. But in reality, all they're doing is telling these women to kill their children.
And I think it really depends on the escort, the descort, her or himself, because like some of them really get into it with like body blocking, like you know, getting in between you. But then I've seen some escorts that are just glorified door openers. So it's really there's a spectrum of like how much they get into their volunteer training, I guess.
Yeah, and so like a lot of times they'll like slam the door as soon as the person walks in so that you can't like say anything else to them. There'll be some of them that like kind of try to block the person from even taking your leaflet. I like to in those situations I really do like to point that out verbally so that the person like being escorted in, and I'll say something along the lines of like, this is exactly what they're going to do. They're just going to lie to you and hide information from you. They don't even want you to have this leaflet right here which says other options, because you're only here to get an abortion. Like that is all they want you to do.
And if they really are pro-choice, and if we really believe like women are smart, women are capable, then you should be okay with a woman having, like a grown woman having a conversation on the sidewalk with someone else with their own information. Like, why are we interfering if we are pro-choice and believe women are, you know, strong, amazing, you know?
It's because like for the vast majority, now there are some people who are pro-choice who genuinely want people to have all these options available to them. But for the vast majority, especially the ones that are activists or the ones that are death escorts, I think they are not pro-choice. I mean, I guess this is something that's going to differ person to person. But yeah, I don't really consider them pro-choice because they're just pro-abortion choice. And like a lot of times they'll get offended too if you call them pro-abortion. And I'm like, but that's literally what you are. Like, and they'll be like,
mad at other choices.
Yeah. And even if you're pro-choice in the literal sense of the word, if you support every single choice that a woman would make in terms of having a baby, and we could dive into why pro-choice is a bad category in general, but if you support every choice that a woman can make, whether it be abortion, adoption, having the child, getting support, whatever she would do in that situation, that is still pro-abortion because you support the legality of abortion. But that offends them a lot of the times where they're like, I'm not pro-abortion, I just want women to have choices. And I'm like, but the choice to get an abortion. Like, I don't get why this is
coming
offensive.
Back to our pro-abortion.
Like, I'm anti-abortion because I'm against abortion being legal. It's like words just change meanings these days, and we have a government that just lets us define words however we want.
Yeah, in addition to a person believing it should be an available option, believing it's fine for it to be occurring in the present, not just in the abstract potential, but abortions are happening in there right now. And yeah, I'm in support of it. I'm volunteering to assist in making that happen. that is an example of being pro-abortion. I'm sorry. It's
Mhm.
just true.
So fast forward a little bit, and about a month later after making this video, a police report was filed because the video had offended somebody. And the police essentially charged me with the part of the FACE Act under the California FACE Act, Part G originally, only 2G, I think. I'd have to look up the actual penal code. But in short, it was recording with intent to intimidate within 100 yards or feet or meters, I don't know what unit they use, of the entrance to an abortion center. Which is really funny because I really don't know how this video could intimidate anybody.
Yeah, a second ago you mentioned trying to shake their hand. That's the format of the meme itself. You weren't literally in reality approaching them to shake their hand. That was just,
if she wanted to shake my hand, I'm not bothered by shaking hands
Melanie
with people. But
was the one holding the camera, and you're extending your hand to Melanie. Shaking the hands.
Yeah, I'm honestly not even sure the specific details about who was holding what, who was recording what. So maybe that's true. I mean, somebody recorded the video.
Like the whole thing is you weren't literally trying to shake her
I was doing like this
in
front of a camera, essentially. I don't know. I was close enough to her that I'm 100% positive she knew we were recording and didn't care. But I don't know, just that. Like, this is intimidating to people, smiling and going like this.
Watching someone do that at someone else is holding a camera. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so no one was harassed that day. No one was ever harassed.
Ever. At least not by me.
The two cameras, like no one that we interact with that we would consider our colleagues are harassing at San Francisco Planned Parenthood, no one we know of, period.
Yeah.
If that had ever happened, if Anna or anyone in our circle had ever harassed Planned Parenthood people since the time we've started, our community's been around since 2016, there would have been complaints and an arrest, charges, warrants. That has never happened once. And they've got security cameras out there. Yeah. And the first time anything like a charge or complaint happens is over the existence of a social media video that they claim contains a threat. And
I don't even know.
Like the fact that everyone always who brings up a complaint against, just on social media, random comments saying, stop harassing. We've never been accused of harassing.
And I'd have to look at all the wording in the statute or the law or whatever, but I honestly don't even think threat is part of it. I don't think the word threat is anywhere in there. If it is, I didn't threaten anyone either. But yeah, so good point. I really think it's the main part is recording with intent to intimidate. But maybe it mentions threat as well. I'm not sure, but I wasn't doing either.
And that's something under the California FACE Act.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about what is the California FACE Act. Looking at you, Robert.
So the FACE Act exists to essentially prosecute anyone who would blockade or intimidate people out of accessing, a building for abortion purposes, whether they're, employee, I believe volunteers as well, staff, as well as clients who the industry would call patients. Yeah, whether that is something that is as simple as old style Operation Rescue, occupy the sidewalk, blanketing the sidewalk full of bodies, that would be illegal under the California FACE Act, versus someone, taking a wrong turn and starting to pick a fight outside, that would equally be under the FACE Act and, rightfully prosecuted, though it's better for things to be underneath, separate laws, not something that is just created to buttress the abortion business, if you know what I mean. But anything that would disrupt operations of, the flow of business at abortion, that's what is targeted under the California FACE Act. Freedom of access to clinic entrances. So whether it's civil disobedience or actual violent people, it's both included under, and it's very important not to confuse one type of action with another, because we would definitely be against violence occurring that would be prosecutable under the FACE Act, but supportive of civil disobedience that would be prosecutable under the FACE Act. Neither of those things happened in Anna's case. It wasn't violence, threats, harassment, or civil disobedience even.
Yeah.
We would have that happened. We're glad. It's she didn't even do that.
Yeah. And something else that's really crazy about this specific law, which makes it really unconstitutional, At least, I guess I'll say as my opinion, since I'm not like a legal expert, but from what I have heard in general, it seems pretty unconstitutional. But we're enforcing the law differently based on beliefs. So like the people who are the death escorts or the security or the people who work at Planned Parenthood, they straight up come up to you. I don't know if I have a phone. I'll use this as a phone. Okay, here, they'll come up to you with their phones, right? And they'll like literally be like this, recording in your face.
Literally.
Like this close to your face, like purposely, like clearly trying to intimidate you, you know? It doesn't usually work, at least maybe it does for some people, but it doesn't for me because I'm always online anyways. But which I'll tell them too. I'm like, I don't really know why you guys think this is intimidating, but for some
I'm in
people,
front of a camera all the time.
yeah, for some people,
Get my good side.
exactly, yeah. For some people, it is intimidating though, because like a lot of people who are at the sidewalk aren't like always online. And I think that is why they do it. They do it with the intention to make you uncomfortable, to
and
make
people
you
are worried.
Yeah.
I'm imagining of somehow their boss seeing their pro-life.
Yeah, or
I don't
being
know.
like
They're
doxxed
thinking
or
worst
whatever.
case scenario.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is just, but they're allowed to do that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I've even been confirmed that they're allowed to do that. But we're not allowed to do the same thing. Granted, that's not even what was happening.
Mhm.
But if we did that, if a pro-lifer did that, that would be what the statute that I've been charged under is about, is like recording with intent to intimidate, like trying to shove a phone in someone's face, trying to make them uncomfortable, trying to do whatever, which again, I've never done. I don't think anyone I've ever seen at the sidewalk has ever done that. Do I doubt that that's happened somewhere in the United States? No, I'm sure some pro-lifer somewhere has done that, but I have literally never seen that happen. And it's definitely not something normal, because what would that video even be good for? Like, what are we gonna have a social media post with someone's face like a half an inch from the camera? It's gonna look awful. But yeah, so I think that makes it unconstitutional in and of itself, that we have a law that's protecting people differently based on their religious beliefs or their morality beliefs. But even still, so that's subsection G. So then I had been arrested. I guess I totally forgot the rest of the story, but fast forward a couple more months after this police report. In that time, I had gotten a call, I think in October. So now September was when it was filed. I think October is when I got a call from like police department that essentially was saying that I had a warrant. It was very confusing, and we tried to figure out what they wanted us to do. We went to the place that they wanted us to go. The lawyer had called the DA. My lawyer called like the court. They called multiple places. Like we were trying to figure this out. And eventually it got to a point where like everybody kept saying they don't have any record of this. And since the call was just like a random call with a block number, I did have like a little bit of information from who the person was. We were kind of like, I mean, I don't know, like all these courts that they keep telling us to go to have no idea what's going on, and there's not really anything we can do about this. So it's kind of just like, I guess either maybe it got dropped or maybe it didn't really exist in the first place. Kind of this like, we don't really know what's going on. Even like from my lawyer, we were like, I mean, I don't know. We did what they told us to do, I think 3 or 4 times at that point. So we kind of just stopped worrying about it.
And we saw you go to the Hall of Justice one day.
Yeah.
We were all 3 in the building, you with your lawyer.
Yeah.
Looking to get to the bottom of this thing to figure out, okay, what am I supposed to do?
Exactly. Like we were literally at the Hall of Justice. The lawyer went up to my lawyer. Her name's Allison, but Allison went up to the counter and she had told them my name, said that like there's apparently a warrant or something, that I was supposed to come here. And the person's like, we don't have any record of her. And they offered to go get the sheriff or whatever. But I was like, but there's no, it's long story short, there was no record. And we were trying to figure it out and we just couldn't, no matter what we did. So then we kind of ignored it at that point. And then when I was sidewalk counseling in December, so each one of these different stages was like a month, by the way. It was like August, September, October. Oh, I guess I skipped November. How fun. I got a month free. But then in December, I had gotten arrested outside of the Planned Parenthood on this subsection G for the recording with intent to intimidate. That was kind of the first point that I actually had any idea what was even going on, mind you. So when I was in the police car, which a lot of people keep pointing out, especially pro-abortion people who may or may not see this, but in the comments, they're always like, oh, this is staged, or like, I don't understand how you stage an arrest.
What?
Like, can you just hire the police
hire
officers?
the police for paid actors?
I don't know.
What?
But the main reason that they say that is because the guy who arrested me, like, took forever. Girl, bye. It wasn't ugly, but so, like, yeah. So it took forever because he was new. Like, he was in training. So, like, he had literally had to be walked through how to arrest me from the other police officer. Yeah. So,
there was 2 of them.
Yeah.
And they were like talking with the staff. on the sidewalk for a long time.
Yeah, and they left the cop door open once they put me in there, so then I was still, like, sidewalk
The back
counseling from the
seat.
police officer car. This girl was coming up to the security, and she was like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Oh, nothing, don't worry about it." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, Planned Parenthood's having me arrested because they don't like my social media posts, and they don't like me sidewalk counseling," or something like that. I have to look at the video. And then, the security just looks at the cop and was like, "Are you gonna do anything about this?" type thing. I don't know that he said anything, but he was, like, pointing, like, and then the cop came and shut the door at that point.
And
But, yeah.
another point about the California FACE Act, a few years ago, Pro-Life San Francisco was doing activism against, I think, Assembly Bill 1356. I believe that was the number. And that was about adding an amended section into the FACE Act about basically, even it's crazy because even the ACLU testified against this amendment because they said that it would chill protected activities on the sidewalk, particularly when it comes to utilizing a video for totally valid purposes. That's what caused me, like ever since that time, like 3 or more years ago, to stop using a GoPro because I was always scared of being accused of, utilizing video recording in violation of the statute. So that's when I switched to just using, audio recording for, to document what is or isn't happening when I'm out there and for my security purposes, like just, iPhone recording audio in my pocket just to, show what's going on when I'm on the shift doing sidewalk outreach outside Planned Parenthood. And yeah, so you'll notice, like, if you ever get a chance to see like more of the video footage that I took of Anastasia being arrested, there's a lot of me just angling down at the concrete, at the sidewalk, because I did not want to get, faces of any staff members or volunteers or escorts, did not want the opportunity for anyone to accuse me of any wrongdoing, because that's just how much of a chilling effect that the California FACE Act currently has. And I'm not even planning to do anything wrong.
But it's like you shouldn't even have to live with that fear, though. Like when you're out in public, we should be able to have video recording happening, and you shouldn't have to live with that fear.
Just like anyone who's pamphleting for any cause for like needs to feel comfortable being able to do that without being told you have to stand 25 feet down the street past that white line, which is not even a law. Like there's not even a law. The San Francisco law says sidewalk counseling, they use that phrase, needs to be balanced with access to, the abortion facility, so that both need to be equally, protected. So there is no statute requiring people to stand behind a quote unquote security line, like, like 25 feet down the block. But Planned Parenthood still to this day is like trying to institute that as a rule. It's only their own preference. Atmosphere of fear and intimidation. We should feel free to pamphlet for any and every cause anywhere, like on a public sidewalk that we wish. And just because we're pro-life doesn't mean it should be any different. And also same when it comes to utilizing a video recording for particularly documentary and security purposes to be able to prove what you are or aren't doing. Just, even one thing when it comes to audio, I was able to pick up on the video that I recorded. We didn't publish this, but when there was a passerby asking the escort or security of Planned Parenthood, why is that person being arrested? The security guard said, she made a video with the message that she wanted to unalive somebody. And this guy was like a boomer. He didn't know what unalive meant. And so it's like from that point, eventually we were able to figure out which video, Anastasia's prolific on Instagram and TikTok, etc.
Interesting. This is the first time hearing of this.
We were able to, I was able to, like, once I was able to, like, help, do everything I need to do that day, take care of your stuff that you need me to help with. Like, eventually I was able to get video out to where it needed to be. We needed to let, our supporters know that, here's what went on. We forwarded it off to your organization afterwards. And then we were able to be like, okay, here's what the world needs to see. There was the one part about security saying, the unalive part, that's where we're eventually able to come around to knowing which video was at issue in this case.
It's really strange because, like, the video doesn't say that at all. In fact, it says that the death wants to unalive people. Anywho, yeah, that was the first I'm hearing of that specific line that the security guard said. Like I said, from the car, I think it was probably the same girl. But yeah.
Your lawyer, Allison's her name, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, she saw that video clip and was able to include that flow of events of the day in a summary that I saw Life Legal put out.
Cool, yeah. So, like, I don't know. Anyways, so then after I got arrested, I was in jail for like 7 hours or whatever. It wasn't really that big of a deal. I was late to work, which was really annoying, but whatever.
But not your first rodeo.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I think that was like, I don't know how many arrests, something
PETA
like that.
was good training, yes.
Yeah, I've been arrested twice with PETA, I think, and like at least twice with direct action everywhere, and at least twice with declare emergency. So I guess that's 6 times, I think. And then maybe I'm messing up the numbers, but I think I've been arrested like 6 or 7 or 8 times. I don't know. 6 or 7. Okay, anyways.
So you're being charged under the California.
Yeah, and actually, so like I'm being charged with more things than that.
Oh.
So I was arrested on subsection G, but then afterwards, the reason why my second hearing, I think it was postponed is because the DA decided that they wanted to add more charges. So they're doing subsection G, which is recording with intent to intimidate, subsection H, which is distributing a video that was recorded with intent to intimidate. So basically the same video, same thing, but the posting of it is a separate law.
What? That's under the California FACE Act.
Yeah, so that's
my
also 2 FACE Act charges, and then the third thing is like an electronic harassment charge, which I do not remember the penal code or what it's called or the specifics of it, but I do know that it's related to doxing, which is utterly amazing to me because I don't know who this lady is, but apparently I'm doxing her, so I don't know who she is.
And can I just say, I'm like amazed.
Jane Doe has been doxed.
If she was really bothered, if I'm really bothered, I don't know, like, why wouldn't you think to be like, can you not?
Yeah, that's the thing.
I do not want to participate.
That's the thing. She not once
or
said...
she could have even gotten up and walked away, like walked to a different part of...
Exactly.
Like, you're like 10 feet away from her, just doing a full body shot from the other side of the sidewalk.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's almost like her passively letting you record is like affirming that you are allowed to record out in the public.
Exactly.
Outdoors.
And the other thing is, like, she never once made any kind of verbal or even nonverbal type of remark as to that she didn't want it recorded or that she was uncomfortable.
Could have even, like, turned her body around.
And I mean, like, we don't have time machines or like alternate realities to figure out what would have happened differently. But the point is, like, she never once made any remark about it making her uncomfortable. That even when she saw the video, I remember, like, all I really remember is her kind of either rolling her eyes or chuckling or whatever, like not a serious chuckle, but like haha funny type thing. But not anything that said not to post it, not anything that said that she didn't want to be in it, not anything that she even had a problem with it, other than kind of this sentiment of like, oh, pro-lifers are annoying type vibe that I was getting from her. She didn't even say that, but that's kind of, I guess, the energy I was feeling. But besides that, like, she didn't say anything about not wanting to be in this video. But yeah.
Could you speak to the reaction of viewers between the time you first posted it and December before the arrest? Like, what? I remember you talking about after the arrest and finding out which video is at issue, you kind of culling through all the comments across like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and seeing if anyone ever interpreted any sort of harassment or threatening, whatever.
That's the funny part is, like, it had like hundreds, if not maybe thousands of comments, but at least hundreds. And on Facebook, I went through all the Instagram comments. I think there was more comments on Facebook, but I went through all the Instagram comments and there was nothing that interpreted it as like a violent or a threat or an intimidating or anything like that. And then on Facebook, I went through all the hundreds of those comments and I saw one single comment that interpreted it in the way that they're trying to interpret it, that it was a threat toward that lady. And that one comment had 0 likes and 0 interactions because it was like the dumbest thing anybody could say. It's a very clear that's not what's going on. And but so anyway, so then the DA, like, after all that, like, charged the 2 additional charges. So now I have those 3 charges and we're going to be fighting those as far as we have to. As of now, I mean, I'm planning on taking it to trial. I guess we'll see what happens, see how the jury reacts to that. But as of now, there's no trial planned yet. We're still in the process of seeing if if this case gets dismissed on the basis of there's no reality in terms of evidence, which is also funny because that was supposed to happen at the most recent date last week, I think it was, where we were supposed to argue for the dismissal. But the DA said they would need over an hour to argue about why it shouldn't be dismissed when it's based off a 13-second video. So I don't know. Like, I feel like even if you went frame by frame, I still don't think that would take an hour. Even if you have like 10 frames per second or even 100 frames per second, I don't think it would take an hour. But what do I know? So anyways, that's really interesting. It seems like a total waste of resources. Our state has a huge problem with homelessness. It has a problem with like just a variety of things that could be a better use of money than spending hours and hours and now months to like prosecute me for making an Instagram video. I think we have better ways to be spending our money. So the DA just has either a lot of free time or a lot of extra money or both, it seems. Yeah. So they're also going to argue for a restraining order is their plan that last I heard anyways, is that the prosecution's going to argue for a criminal restraining order, which would be connected to the criminal case. Think the goal would be to protect that lady, supposedly. I don't know what we're protecting her from, but we'll have to see what the specifics of that is if it ends up getting approved. All I know is that they're planning on arguing for that. I don't know what the specifics would be, and I think honestly a lot of that's up to the judge anyways. So we'll see at the next one when we argue the dismissal, and then they argue that, which is, I believe, March 11th at this point at 9 a.m. And I guess until then, we're just staying tuned. But yeah.
Yeah, I remember being really hopeful. I don't know, it was just me in my own head when the first, hearing took place in January that this would be over in a month, because it would just not make any sense for the city government, the DA or anybody to spend resources on this if they are able to look at the video, take the 13 seconds to observe it, the 1 minute to read through carefully the text in the video and the text in the caption and understand what's being communicated and the intent. It shouldn't take more than a minute past that. So the only way that it could take the prosecutors an hour to need to debate and state their argument is by padding the argument unnecessarily with irrelevant arguments and history that have no bearing on this interaction, this video, this situation. So, and just going through maybe, real acts of violence that took place, in the past, but have no connection to what's going on in the present moment. It's going to be irrelevant. It's going to be padded. And I'd say, why would the government waste its time? I think they're just trying to save face and show Planned Parenthood that they at least made an effort, even though it's a losing effort.
But yeah, and it's
not
just
save face.
But yeah, we do need to get rid of face in general. I mean, there's a good definitely
repeal the face.
Repeal the face act. There's definitely a big push for that at the federal level. At least there was. Now it's we never really know what's going on in government, to be honest. But they're definitely charging some of the people who are like disrupting churches with Face Act now, or they're trying to do that in Minneapolis, I believe it was. And I would say, like, in general, the Face Act just needs to go away. I think it's unconstitutional to be targeting people based on where their protest is, essentially. It's the same thing with the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act, to kind of rope it all back to animal rights, which essentially, if you've never heard of that, it, like, is specific laws to, like, protest activity at like slaughterhouses and animal labs. I think those are like, there might be another couple locations, but essentially like at these facilities that are mass exploiting animals, if you like block a slaughter truck, for example, that is under the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act. If you encourage, like if there's a lot of violence or like even certain things at animal testing facilities, there's just additional charges. Like even if like it in and of itself might be a charge, like say it's something violent, that already is a charge. There's additional charges based on that. And that's kind of what when this law happened, which also was Minneapolis, if I'm not mistaken. Very interesting. But when people were charged under that in like the late 90s, I think it was, or early 2000, it might be early 2000 because I think it would have to be after 9/11. So it'd be like early 2000s. There was people, if you watch the documentary called Animal People, it's about the real story of these activists who were targeting a animal lab, Huntington Life Sciences, I think it was. And they were targeting that and having pressure campaigns, basically trying to get like their toilet paper distributor to stop allowing them to buy toilet paper there, trying to get the bank to stop allowing them to bank there. Like basically going after from all angles, and made life very difficult for this animal testing facility. So they were charged the 6 or 7 organizers, the Shack 7, so 7 organizers. Stop Huntington Animal Cruelty was the name of the organization. And those organizers, a couple of them went to jail for, I think 6 of them actually went to jail for, I don't know if the smallest was like a year or a couple years. It was a significant amount of time for activism. And that, yeah, we could dive into that, but that's a different story.
I wonder if we could find out what toilet paper company Planned Parenthood used to get them to cut ties with the abortion industry.
Actually, they use one ply. That's why they're no, just kidding.
Something like that. But yeah, it's also just, I mean, I just want to encourage people like who do sidewalk counseling or who do any type of pro-life work that what you're doing is making a difference. I think like I don't want people to take away from this that like, we need to be like scared at the sidewalk. Because, like, even though, yeah, the police can do pretty much whatever they want, will it stick? I don't know. But, like, there's always, like, anything can happen when you're doing any kind of activism or really when you're just like, rolling with your life, to be honest. But especially when you're doing activism, you're combating these systems that the law is designed to help. So a lot of people think that the law is designed to help, like, individuals, to help the people, to help the residents of the place. And in many cases, sure. There are definitely times where, like, for example, if someone, like, assaults you, like, the law does make that illegal. And in theory, it should allow you to prosecute someone for assaulting you, right? So that'd be a time where it's like an individual type thing.
Yeah.
But a lot of the laws, especially the laws that actually get like pushed, like actually go to court and actually end up getting people in jail, and especially when it comes to activists, is going to be laws that protect corporations, that protect buildings, that protect like assets, things that are not people. There's a lot of crimes that you would call like a victimless crime or a nonviolent crime, depending on what it is. But there's a lot of crimes where it's totally illegal to do something that doesn't actually hurt anyone. And I think in some instances, maybe that makes sense. But I think people like just assume that the cops are always on your side. And really, they don't get to pick a side. Like when they're doing their job, like they're quite literally just have to do what the law says, what they're commanded to do. They're kind of
orders.
Yeah, following orders. It's like the system is designed to keep, in our cases, like buildings like Planned Parenthood, like the abortion industry. It's designed to protect that. It's not designed to protect the activists. As many times as cops will come up to you when they come to a protest, for example, and be like, "Oh, we're here to protect you." No, they're not. There's not a single time that cops are there to protect you.
No.
If
They're making sure everything's in order.
Exactly.
So that nothing escalates.
Yeah, at least focusing on activism, there's never a time that they're there to protect you. The cops are there at any activism situation. Unless if you call them, then maybe 99.99999% of the time. If they show up without being called by somebody in your organization, they are not there to protect you. They're going to tell you they are.
Yeah.
But they're there to watch you, to make sure you're not doing anything that you're not supposed to do, to monitor your group. Detain you if possible. Like they're there for the opposite of helping you. There's nothing you can say to a police officer that's going to help your case. I think that's why it's so important to have a police liaison.
Yeah, I learned that early on in my own pro-life career when I was doing sidewalk outreach back in San Antonio, and the building manager at the time did not like me. And I just remember one time a cop pulling up, and in my mind thinking like, great, like, you know, the what's the word, cavalry's here, like, you know, this guy, he's got my back. And nope, I quickly learned, nope, he was there to, you know, keep intact what the building manager was asking and enforce that, and et cetera, et cetera. Learned that early on in my own journey. So
yeah,
The flow of clients, the flow of money, the flow of customers.
exactly.
Yes.
Just to even though you're not even disrupting anything out there.
Just standing there. I'm curious, Anna, if and when you get the restraining order, how would that work practically? Like, wouldn't you have to know with certain amount of certainty that homegirl is there at the Planned Parenthood?
Yeah, so I guess we'd have
Like,
to see the details when we actually get it,
How does that
if
play
they get
out?
it. I know I've gotten a restraining order once from a animal rights protest. I still can't remember that guy's name, but the guy who's like the property manager in Iowa at Iowa Select Farms CEO's house. I don't remember his name. If I had enough time, I'd probably remember it because I always get asked it when I enter the country from somewhere else. So anytime I travel into the United States, I get asked about this restraining order and this guy's name. let's call him Mark a Farmer. I don't know his name. I could remember if I tried hard enough. But they always ask me about him and I'm like, I don't remember who that is. So they can get a restraining order even if you have no idea who the person is. It's happened. But I guess like it would be kind of when you have a restraining order against somebody, if you're happen to be in the same place, the person who's the protected party, like in this case, it would be that girl in the video if they get the restraining order. I don't know if they have to like make themselves known or like whatever, but like once you know that you're in the same vicinity as them, the person who the restraining order is against just has to leave or at least leave the area. So that's kind of just how that works. You're right. I wouldn't know her
'Cause
schedule.
I'm like,
I don't know.
Like, wouldn't she have to be there every day of the week during
Yeah.
all of their hours of operation just to cover to make
Yeah.
sure that if you there, if you show up,
Who
you can
knows?
be here
They
on this
could just-
random,
yeah.
I don't know, Tuesday afternoon.
They could just
Like-
also say that like because she volunteers there that like I'm not allowed there. I guess we will see. But
Yeah,
also I have
okay.
not seen her since
To be
September.
determined.
So like I literally have not seen her since September. It is currently March. So like I don't
March
really know
2026.
why Planned Parenthood would be involved at all since
Yeah.
like she hasn't been there, at least that I've seen. But yeah, anyways, I just think like just thank you for the work everyone does in front of their Planned Parenthoods and in front of their other facilities
Yeah.
that are near them. I think like even if you don't get like a confirmed save or like you
Mhm.
don't necessarily directly stop an abortion, I think at a minimum, anytime you're at these facilities, you're showing love to the moms, you're showing love to the preborn people in a way that might be the last act of love in their life,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And honestly, even for the moms, they could like there can be complications with abortion that result in people's life ending as well. But yeah, another thing is just like really showing the love of God. Like I think like I said like earlier that I was an atheist when I became a pro-life activist. And I think from there was like a lot of stuff that just happened that kind of like could dive into, but really I'm just going to keep it brief. The point is like I was convinced by pro-life activists to start reading the Bible. And in my head I was like, I'm going to do that so that I can argue with them because I'm sick of these people telling me that God's real and this, that, the other thing. I don't know. I don't know what my mentality was, but I was like trying to read the Bible to spite them.
Like,
ha ha ha, I got them now.
I'm gonna get them.
Yeah.
I'm gonna show them pro-life
I'm
Christians.
gonna show them by reading the Bible. They'll hate that. But anyway, so
They're like, no, she's reading the Bible.
I had read John, I read Matthew, and then some point along the way when I was reading Mark, I started to just feel like it was true, if that made sense. It just started to make more sense. And especially when it came to like the fish and the loaves. And I was like, okay, well, why does it say like 4,000 here and it says 5,000 here? And I think there's one part that it even says like 7,000 or something. And it really like, to me, I was like, but that's human memory. They're not going to know. It's not like they took attendance. So like to me, it was even more real. And even still between Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, when they tell these stories, they are slightly different each time. And I think, and not even just in that story, but that's the one that really stuck out to me. But like in all the stories, they're just slightly different. They're not like they got together and compared notes. It's like you would have if Melanie is talking about my arrest outside Planned Parenthood and he's talking about my arrest outside of Planned Parenthood and I'm talking about it. We all might remember certain things differently or it's human memory. So to me, that made it seem more real that there was like slight indiscrepancies, but they're not indiscrepancies to the point where like, oh, this disproves this or this disproves this. It's like discrepancies in terms of like the number of people in the crowd or the like exact words that were used, things that don't disprove each other, but just kind of show different humans wrote it. And I think to me that kind of like started clicking to where like, oh, these are actually like eyewitness accounts. But anyway, I guess like I say all this to be like, another thing is just remember to like center God in your activism and to really like share that when you get a chance, because you should definitely allow like atheists to do activism with you. Like they have a good aspect of ways they can connect with others differently. There are some like benefits to having an atheist or like someone of different religions who's working with you on this issue. But I think ultimately we need to remember that like, at least for those of us that are Christians, that are pro-life Christians, that like, while our pro-life work is very important and it is something we should be doing as Christians, as human beings who care about equality, I think like we also need to remember that we're also here to spread the word of God. And just give your chance when you get a chance to talk to people. If people ask you questions, especially, maybe we don't need to be like repeating the same thing to people all the time, but especially when people ask questions, to like answer those questions for them. And I think that's really what helped me there.
And speaking of what you're speaking about, even though I'm not a Christian, I fully applaud Christian pro-lifers who wear their heart on their sleeve, who don't try to hide away any part of, the benefits that they want to share with the people they come into contact with. Like, it wouldn't make any sense to be like, I'll only help you this far, but I'm going to keep Jesus to myself. Like, that doesn't make sense. And as a non-Christian, I can applaud what Anna's talking about here.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm like, all are welcome in the pro-life movement. If you are anti-abortion, I want to be working with you. Let's please join hands.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, Anna, remind us at the time of recording,
hold on.
the next court date is?
The next court date is March 11th. April Fools. Because that already happened. I don't know when the next court date is, but happy April Fools, everybody. But yeah, so we'll probably update in the comments on whatever gets posted about what happened at the most recent court date, I'm sure. But March 11th is the next thing as of the live time that we're recording this right now.
Okay, so Anna, let us know, how can the people get connected with you, follow along with your pro-life activism, and any last words of encouragement?
If you'd like to get connected with me or just follow along, you can follow either my personal Instagram is at Anna, ANAXOXY _pro-life on Instagram. That's ANAXOXY _pro-life. You also could follow the Survivors page, which is at thesurvivors.us, or the local one at thesurvivors.sf. So either one of those works. And the SF one would definitely help very specifically if you want to get involved with the SF activism. Pro-Life SF also has things that they do. So definitely, if you're not following them and watching this, what are you doing with your life? You should definitely follow them as well. But yeah, you can follow those 3 Instagram accounts that I just said, my own, the national page, the SF page, I guess 4, and then also Pro-Life SF's page. But besides that, if you want to email me, I don't know if people do that these days. Anastasia at thesurvivors.us, which is my name spelled ANASTASIA. So yeah, you can email me if you'd like. Sending me a message on Instagram usually works probably about as well as emailing does. If I don't respond to something that you've sent me and you want a response to, feel free to message anybody else that looks like they know me and tell them to get my attention. But yeah.
Any last words?
Oh, last words.
Inspiration, call to action.
I guess call to action is just go to your sidewalk, get active. If you are local in San Francisco, definitely reach out to me, reach out to Melanie, reach out to Robert, reach out to somebody and get involved, get on the street. If you can't get involved on the street, there's ways to financially contribute. Both Pro-Life SF and myself are looking for donations all the time for people to join our mission, like as a supporter, to support financially and to really be part of this work, even if you can't be on the ground, but you'd be a huge part of it by helping out financially. So that's something that you can do as well. And of course, keep us in your prayers. That's very, very useful. If you want to come to our hearings, our sidewalk counseling, there's a lot of ways you can get involved. Whatever of those things speaks to your heart.
Everyone calls out.
Although the heart is very deceitful. So whatever speaks to your, I don't know, your mind. I don't know.
Your intellect.
Yeah. But yeah. And then just, I don't know, like abortion is murder. Tell your friends. Christ is king. Yeah.
Yeah, Viva Cristo Rey. So thank you so much, Anastasia, for coming on the Harvesting Justice podcast. It has been a joy to get to chat with you and go through all these topics together. And please like and subscribe, leave a comment, leave a review wherever you're listening to your podcast. And this is the Harvesting Justice podcast, and we do try to bring attention the fight against fetal organ harvesting. Please go to ethicalresearchnow.org, take the action step, contact all the leaders within the UC system to let them know that you demand for an end to fetal organ harvesting. And please stay connected with Pro-Life San Francisco. Go to our website, prolifesf.org, scroll down, subscribe to our email list, and that will be one of the best ways to stay in the know of all of our upcoming events. So thank you again, Anna. And until next time, Harvesting Justice podcast over and out.
Ethical research now. Ethical research now. Ethical research now.